Today we're going to do 26 TBR books to read in 2026. I've broken this down into 3 categories. We have 1, TBR physical books that I've been meaning to get to that I'm hopefully going to get to this year. We have TBR books that I'd like to get to this year that I don't personally have. And then we have new releases. Starting off with our physical TBR that I'd like to get to this year. First, we have Eternal Ruin. This is the 2nd book. The first book was Immortal Dark that was my best book of last year. I got this one at the end of last year and I just never picked it up. So I'm ready to read this one now. Categorized as YA, but I would say this is on the far spectrum of YA, not even close. I would say it's more of an adult kind of book. This combines Ethiopian culture and vampires and gothic architecture and gloomy dark academia setting. Enemies to lovers, maybe? I don't know, but I'm so excited to get to this book. Now we have Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This I attempted to start last year and didn't get very far. I've read Daisy Jones and Six and I really love that book. I love the show. I think they did a great job adapting that. But something that I'm really happy about this one is that it's about NASA in the 80s. It follows a professor at the Rice University that ends up being one of the first women to join NASA's space shuttle program. Love that. But what I really love about this is that I grew up right around NASA in the Houston area. So I'm excited to see what she's included in the setting and the atmosphere and maybe there's little notes in that I'm oh my gosh, I know what that is. We'll see. I don't know. It's in the 80s. I wasn't born yet, so maybe I'm not going to know most of these things, but I'm excited to check this book out. Next up, we have Every Summer After. This one I read in the wrong order. I read One Golden Summer last year. Finished that book, was oh yeah, this is a nice book. I'd love to continue reading a lot of Carly's stuff because I enjoyed it. The romance was nice, the setting was nice, I liked the characters. Didn't realize that this was the first book in the series and I need to read that one before because it basically spoiled this relationship, which is fine. You still are gonna get some more details into their ups and downs, but I messed up and that's on me. That's on me. I'm holding myself accountable. I still want to read this one though because like I said, I really enjoyed the writing, but also there's supposed to be a movie that's coming out with this book and I love comparing movies and books. It's my favorite thing to do. So hopefully I can get to this one. Hopefully it will be a summer read. I don't know when the movie comes out, but maybe I'll read this. This will be a summer book for me. Next up, we have the Cruel Prince series. I know, crazy. Haven't read this series yet. It's been all over TikTok, all over YouTube. People have been talking about it for years. I just never picked it up. I don't know why I never picked it up. I love Holly Black. I love the Spiderwick Chronicles. I grew up reading Holly Black books. I think this is because I'm not a big Fae person, but I think with all the political intrigue and Holly Black writing it, that maybe I could really be into this book. Maybe she can make me like Fae. If you don't know what this series is about, this follows Jude, who is a mortal being and she's living and everyone hates her because, this Fae people are no. She's wanting some powers because she's I don't fit in this world. But then she ends up clasping with Prince Carden and there's a lot of political intrigue and he torments her, so I'm excited about this. Next up, we have The Lies of Locke Lamora. This book has been on my TBR for at least a year now, probably more than that. I think it's because it's a bit of a chunk and some days I have to really be in the mood or it really has to grip me in the first few chapters for me to get through some chunks because they're a little intimidating to me, I won't lie. I can read a chunk book, but it's I need to be in the right time and space. After I read a big chunk, I want a small book, to reward myself. Anyway, I want to fill the hole in my heart that Six of Crows and the Shadow and Bone series left when they never renewed Six of Crows with this book. Because this book basically follows a gang of thieves in this kind of dingy city where they end up kind of framing their crimes as schemes against the wealthy. And then some mysterious figure comes in and starts kind of trying to take control and demolish this underworld that they are in. So they kind of all have to band together, fight this little thing, try to survive the attack. So hopefully I can get to this one. I think I can. If I set aside time, I think I can. Next up, Hellbent. As I mentioned before, the 3rd book in the series is coming out. I have not read the 2nd book yet. I read the 1st book 2 years ago, I want to say, and I just never picked up the 2nd book. I've had the 2nd book, I just never picked it up to read it. So maybe if I read this one, I can read the 3rd book that comes out so that I can complete the series because what am I doing? It's not I didn't like the 1st book, I just never picked it up. I think it's because it's really dark and you kind of have to be in the right mind space for this. I mean, they're literally in hell in this book, so you just have to really be in the mood for that kind of stuff. Next is the Mammoth series. Guys, I talk about this book a lot on my channel. Y'all are probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but I love this book. I think it was so much fun. I want to read the rest of the series. I think there's 3 more books or maybe 4 more books in this series. I just want to see how this goes. If you don't know what this is, because it's kind of like an independent kind of book, basically it's an Outer Banks fanfic in the nicest way possible. It takes a lot of inspo, and I mean a lot of inspo from Outer Banks. It kind of has like same plot wise, but different main characters, like different original characters, but they're very similar to the Outer Banks characters. So yeah, I do love a good like adventure kind of book, but I do like comparing, like I said, to other things, and this literally is like an Outer Banks ripoff, but it's good. I have A Theory of Dreaming. This is the 2nd book in the Study in Drowning series, or duology. I think maybe this is a duology. I thought the first book was like, it's over. I didn't know there was a 2nd book coming out until the 2nd book did come out last year. I got it, never ended up reading it. I really enjoyed the first one. I think it was one of my top reads, the year before that I read it. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fae person, and this does deal on some like fairy tale fae kind of things, but one thing I will give Ava Reid credit for is that she's really good at writing very like atmospheric scenes that I love to dive into. Like while reading the first book, I was like, I already see the movie. Girl, let's get you the rights, because I already see the movie that's going on. So hopefully this is the same kind of vibe with this book. I'm not sure where this is gonna go, because I feel like the first book kind of ended on a good spot, if I remember correctly. You know what? The world's cool. And lastly, on our physical TBR that I'd like to read in 2026, One Dark Window. Now, before you start coming after me, I tried to read this one last year. I think I got like a chapter in, so I didn't really give it much of an effort. I just was not in the mood for this. I don't know what was going through with me, but I just did not want this kind of like just dark fantasy kind of thing. So we're redoing it. We're gonna retry this year. Also, I do want to check out Rachel's other series that just came out, The Night and the Moth, or something like that. That series. This follows Elizabeth, and she has this like dangerous magical power in this like cursed kingdom. She ends up kind of entangling herself with this mysterious outlaw, and she is forced to come to terms with the magic inside of her to basically free the curse of this town. Now on to my TBR books that are out. I just don't have copies of, that I'd like to get copies of, or maybe just read in general. First up, we have Word Slut by Amanda Montell. I have read her other 2 books, which is The Age of Magical Overthinking kind of book, and then Cultish, and I absolutely loved both of them. She has such a unique kind of nonfiction writing style that it's very easy to digest and understand all the facts that she's giving to you, with also doing like stories and like little inputs in between. So I really love her writing for that. I reference Cultish a lot. It's always thinking whenever I hear something that has to deal with anything that she wrote in that book, I'm like, and I read about that. And I know what that's about. But this book basically is talking about the feminist linguistics and like words that were used against women or not, and how they kind of translate to today's like modern language. Next up, another nonfiction. This year I'm trying to read more nonfictions. I think last year I only read 1, so I'm trying to get a little bit more into my nonfiction world, expand my genre just a smidge bit, because I feel like I've been reading a lot of fiction, and it's good to toss in a little nonfiction every once in a while. The next one though is The Cure for Women. This one book basically shows like the birth of like sexist science that still is haunting us to this day. It shows the woman who started medical school strictly for females, and how men basically came in and were like, hey, females cannot work this type of job because you guys have periods and you guys have to have babies, so therefore you can't work this job. So I'm interested to see behind the scenes. I am not like I don't like hospitals. Most of my friends are nurses, so I am aware of things that go on and whatnot, and I think they're very important in this world that we live in, especially nowadays. So I'm interested to see kind of like the backstory on this. Is this one of my specific intrigues? No, but I'm very much into like feminism and sexism and like where things originated and why things are the way they are now kind of thing. I love getting to the roots of the problems, so I am excited to read about that. Next up, we have Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, which is like a prequel or like just book in front of the Divine Rivals duology. This focuses on like the gods and goddesses of that world, and I'm assuming it's like their backstory or like how they came to be them, or like the start of this world. That was like one of my questions while reading that duology, was like, because I really did love that world. I think she has very like poetic style writing, so she's a very good writer in my opinion. Next up is If It Makes You Happy. I currently actually am reading this book. I put it on a hold on my library back in October, like when it came out, and then I didn't get the hold until December, I want to say, and I had other books, so I put it on hold again, and I just now got it back. So hopefully I'll finish this book. I didn't realize it was like 500 pages though. I don't know what romance book really needs 500 pages, but I'm giving it its chance. I love a good fall romance. It's giving small town Gilmore Girls. It's very fall vibes, very like working an inn. Oh, a dream of mine. And she has this like next door neighbor who's like a jack of all trades man, who like basically can bake and is a handyman, can do all this stuff, and she's kind of failing at kind of taking over this inn, and she kind of becomes friends with him and his 2 little daughters. Next is The Raven Scholar. I've heard such good like reviews and raves on this book that I'm excited to check it out. I think this is going to be one of my like big, more chunkier like dark academia books that I really like analyze this year. So contenders are competing against each other to take over this reign when one of them ends up getting murdered, and Nima, who is one of the contenders, ends up being tasked to find out who this murderer is while she's in these trials, and she has to do it before this trial thing like ends. So I'm excited to learn about this. The cover looks sick. I love new worlds and a lot of dark academia stuff, so I'm excited. I'm kind of haven't had like a really good dark academia book in a while, so I'm excited about this one. Next up is Once Upon a Broken Heart. This is a series that, again, I'm shocked I haven't got to yet, but I just never picked it up, and I've been wanting to read it, and I see people talking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think I'd really like that, but I just never decided to pick the book up. I'm not a really big fan of romantasy, so that's might also be like a reason why I really haven't wanted to pick up this book as much as I wanted to pick up other books. But I will say romance and romantasy has been growing on me recently in the last year. I read a lot of romance books, or romance-esque. Anyway, Evangeline's love of her life is getting married. And instead of just like, you know, talking to this man about her feelings, she ends up making this deal with this wicked prince who basically wants more than what she pledged for. Next up, the second, I'm so excited. This cover looks sick, and I'm so excited for just like women knights. Joan of Arc, oh my gosh. When I went to the Renaissance Festival the last time I went, I made all of my like chainmail armor, and I was like referencing the Zendaya look of Joan of Arc that she went to the Met Gala with. Chef's kiss. Anyway, this book is the second death of Locke. So Gray Flynn has basically dedicated her life to, she has this like deep well of raw power inside of her, but it's basically a secret between these two. She allows Kira to like use her powers and kind of all the stuff, like she wants to be used by him. That kind of sounds weird, but he never asks anything of her. Like she's just his like kind of mage, and that's kind of it. And she's kind of like, I want to be a little bit more useful. A quest ends up pulling them into a quite grave danger, where they basically have to figure out like what are they willing to sacrifice to keep their secret. Another nonfiction book is Scream With Me. This one, again, I'm trying to pick books that I think are of categories that I enjoy learning about and just kind of like exploring, so that I can maybe dive more into nonfiction, maybe even next year. This one compares classic horror films, critiques the issues of like reproductive rights, domestic violence, and like patriarchal repression, and like how women were in these classic horror films. Why were they this? Why were they that kind of thing? And I love that. I love horror films. I love classic horror films. And next we have First Time Callers series by B.K. Borison. I saw this book come out, was like, oh yeah, I think I'd like that. Never read it. Now the second book's coming out, and I'm thinking, maybe I should probably go back to reading the first one, so maybe I can read the second book. It follows a grumpy radio show host and a single mom, where she ends up kind of going viral on his radio show host, and maybe like a connection forms because of that. And lastly, on my TBR is I want to reread the classics. I'm currently reading Pride and Prejudice. It's because me and my friend kind of started our own little book club, our like duo book club, where we want to read some more of our classics again, reread them, talk about them, analyze them. So I'm excited. I'm ready to read. I have like a full shelf full of classics that I'm ready to dive back in and read and analyze, because most of these I haven't read since school. Some of them I've read on my own, but most of them was in school. So I'm ready to hear my take now that I don't have that like academic setting around me, kind of forcing me to have these opinions on the book. Now we are into the new releases that I'd like to read this year. First up, we have Future Saints. Future Saints is a struggling band in California. Recently, their manager ended up passing away, so a record exec is coming to help them out, because if they don't start getting the ball rolling, they're gonna get dropped by their record company. While he's there, they have some songs go viral, and some of these band members either take advantage of the fame or don't really know what to do with fame, and there's a lot of trials and tribulations that come out of this. It's been compared to Daisy Jones and the Six, and I really love that book. I'm a big 70s rock girly. I love Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, so I'm excited to learn about another band and their ups and downs. Next up is The Poisoner that comes out January 13th. When I was researching my January new releases, this one really stuck out for me. I love a good vampire read, and I love a good like badass woman. So Alina is a botanist, or maybe she is a poisoner hobbyist on the side. In her pastime, she kills unsavory men in this town. She targets the playboy of the town, Silas, and then a week later he ends up showing up at her doorstep, and she's like, oh, maybe just normal men are not my concern right now. Then we have Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher that comes out in March. I love T. Kingfisher. I love a good small novella. She is able to pack a whole world in like less than 200 pages, which I think is absolutely crazy. And I really enjoy her stuff. So it's $18.99. Sonia is this illustrator. She gets offered a job doing illustrations for Dr. Halder. She ends up moving into his like creepy old manor and finds out that there's a lot of dark things going on in the North Carolina woods surrounding his manor. There's lots of mysteries to get to the bottom of with his family and the woods. So I'm excited to feel like this like creepy wood old manor vibes of T. Kingfisher. Next up, we have The Escape Game that comes out in April. This is a murder mystery, but like make it an escape room. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's basically a TV show called The Escape Game. And the previous season, they ended up having a tragedy happen on set where someone actually got murdered. Now they are filming their current season with like a whole new batch of contenders. And one of the contenders is the sister of the girl who got murdered in the past season. She wants justice for her sister, so she's willing to do anything to kind of figure out what happened. Next up, completing my Carly book reads, is Our Perfect Storm that comes out in May. Frankie and George were like the bestest of friends until it comes to the eve of Frankie's wedding, and she's not really sure how her and George stand with their friendship. Her fiance ends up dumping her before the wedding, and she kind of is now, rightfully so, a little mopey. But George does not want this to happen for her, so he basically is like, hey, let's go on your honeymoon together. And I mean, you kind of figure out what's gonna go on them, because if these two are going on their honeymoon together, then they're gonna be treated like a couple. So I don't know. Again, another good summer read. So maybe I'll read one summer after and then Our Perfect Storm back to back in the summer and have a good summer read. Next up, we have 2 Leigh Bardugo books, okay? I love Leigh Bardugo. She's one of my favorite authors. We have A Darker Shore, which is Letters from Ketterdam. This comes out in June, and this basically is letters between Kaz and Inej from the Six of Crows. How like this investigator is investigating things and ends up finding this like thing full of letters between these two. So excited about that, because love that couple. Love the couple that never was. Then we have Deadbeat that comes out in September, which is the 3rd book in the 9th House series, or the Alex Stern series. I really enjoyed the first one. I think Leigh Bardugo does such a good job with her characters and like really making them feel real and her world's real. It's just a really dark series. So I think that's why I never really gravitated to picking up the second book right away, because I was like, oof, it's a little dark. You need some time in between. Like, read a nice book in between these books. Anyway, that is all of my 2026 books that I would like to read this year. I'm sure there will be many more, but those are ones that I do want to check off my list this year. Let me know some books that you're reading this year. If any of these books intrigued you or you have any suggestions for me, please let me know because I love a good book suggestion. Anyway, have a great rest of your day.